When I was reborn, my villainous son was already 70 years old. His celestial core had been extracted, his celestial essence destroyed, and he was bullied like a stray dog. Bullet comments scrolled by. Serves him right. Who told him to oppose our heaven? Favored protagonist? He brought this fate upon himself. Doesn't he realize who our protagonist's master is? That's Celestial Lord Zixiao, the unparalleled figure of the Celestial Cloud sect. With him around, the villain will never even touch the protagonist's heels in this lifetime. After reading these, I didn't say a word. I simply took up my sword and stormed the Celestial Cloud sect. It wasn't just because of the original protagonist who had extracted my son's celestial core, but also because that unparalleled Celestial Lord Zixiao is my husband, Caden Xia. The year Caden Xia and I parted ways. We did so with utmost dignity. We dissolved our vows before the great Easter Marsh, where we had once pledged our love under heaven and earth. Before parting, I wished him a swift ascension to fulfill his dream of protecting all living beings. Caden Xia offered not a single word to ask me to stay. He only said, if one day you find yourself with nowhere to turn, you can come to the Celestial Cloud sect to seek me out. At the time, I paid it no mind, thinking that as a manifestation of the divine tree of Kunlun, born from the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, I only needed to undergo my tribulation to ascend to immortality. How could I ever be driven to such desperation that I would seek refuge at his immortal sect? Thus, for over 10 years that followed, Caden Xia and I had no communication. Even when I gave birth to our child Leo alone, I never told him about it until I fell into a decades-long slumber due to my tribulation. When I opened my eyes again, my son had his immortal bones extracted and his celestial essence destroyed, reduced to an elderly man fighting wild dogs for scraps and being driven away by ignorant children throwing stones. Oh ho, isn't this the villain who obstructed Fin Zhang's cultivation? Haven't seen him in a while, and he's fallen this low. Serves him right, daring to oppose our protagonist. He brought this fate upon himself. Hollow words floated before my eyes. I didn't know Fin Zhang. I only knew that during the decades I was absent, a talented youth had emerged in the cultivation world. He possessed formidable destiny and golden opportunities. He is the protagonist of this world, and my son is the villain. Don't say that. If we hadn't extracted the villain's celestial core and bones, how could our protagonist have progressed so quickly? Ha ha ha. True, a villain actually possessing a natural celestial body. What a pity he encountered our protagonist. From the fragmented clues in the bullet comments, I learned that Fin Zhang was the cause of all this, simply because he, as the protagonist, needed a perfect innate constitution for his cultivation, so Zhaoer became his prey. Ridiculous. Rage surged within me. But then, the bullet comment struck me again. Fin Zhang truly lives up to being the great protagonist of our cultivation novel. Ascending through tribulations is just around the corner. Of course, have you seen who our protagonist master is? It's none other than Celestial Lord Zixiao, Caden Xia, the unparalleled genius of the Celestial Cloud sect, raised and taught personally by him. Fin Zhang is the widely anticipated successor of the Celestial Cloud sect. With him around, the villain will never even touch the protagonist's heels in this lifetime. Caden Xia. Hearing that name again, I felt somewhat dazed. I had thought it was just someone with the same name, but the Celestial Cloud sect is a major cultivation sect, the only one of its kind in the world. I quickly realized Fin Zhang's master was the same person as the swordsman husband I had met during my travels in the mortal realm years ago. Mother, Leo's voice interrupted my thoughts. I have disappointed you. Mother, I have grown old, while you remain as radiant as ever. After transcending my tribulation, I needed to rest and recover, and I had instructed Leo to take care of himself. I also left him with cultivation techniques and mantras. I had thought I would wake to see a spirited young swordsman, but times had changed. He had suffered such a tremendous upheaval. When I left, he was just a little sticky rice ball of a child. Yet, now he was adrift in the mortal world. no different from an ordinary person, and he had endured decades of hardship. I stroked Leo's dry, graying hair, suppressing the ache in my eyes. How could that be? Leo has grown up well and is already remarkable. Leo could no longer hold back, his lips quivering as tears fell. I transferred a bit of my cultivation to Leo, transforming him back to his original form and planting him in the courtyard. Each day, I nourished him with spiritual water and spring. He takes after me, his true form being the divine Langon tree. Back when he was in my womb, he endured the celestial trial, forming his immortal body. Had nothing gone wrong, his future cultivation would surely have surpassed mine. Who would have thought he'd now be inferior, even to lowly spiritual herbs? Now, starting his cultivation anew, he's just a sapling of the divine Langon tree. Mother, I will work hard. He gently brushed my cheek with his delicate branches. No rush. Take your time. Mother needs to go out for a while. Where are you going? My wrist was entwined by Leo's branches. I could feel his unease and tension. Mother has matters to attend to. Then when will you return? At most, 3 days. His branches instantly softened and became gentle. Leo shook his leaves, as if waving his tiny hands. All right then, Mother, please come back early. I comforted him reassuringly, then turned away as my expression turned cold. Cadence Xiao once said that if I ever had nowhere to turn, I could go to the celestial cloud sect to find him. Now, I truly need to make that trip. However, it's not to seek help, but rather to seek revenge. As I pulled out a sword and began sharpening it with determination, bullet comments kept flashing before my eyes. Holy crap, who is this woman? She just appeared out of nowhere and saved the villain. It's the villain's mother. Her cultivation is incredible. There's no such character in the book. Oh no, is she going to seek revenge on Finjiang? The bullet comments chattered incessantly. At the same time, my sword was sharpened and ready. I gazed at the blade, gleaming with a silvery light. You're right. I am going to the celestial cloud sect to find Finjiang. The air fell silent for a second. Then, those bullet comments exploded like a boiling pot, rapidly flooding the screen. Holy crap, she can see us. Oh my god, this cheat is even more powerful than the protagonist. Finjiang is in danger. All sorts of chaotic subtitles flooded in. I gripped my sword and rushed toward the celestial cloud sect. On the day I arrived at the celestial cloud sect's territory, I originally thought it would take some effort to see Finjiang. Unexpectedly, he happened to appear in the small town at the foot of the mountain. He emerged under the envious and astonished gazes of the crowd. It had only been a little over a month, yet young Master Zhang's cultivation had advanced significantly, truly worthy of being the celestial cloud sect's once in a century genius. Who could blame it? With his exceptional talent, born with a celestial core and immortal bones, flattering and congratulatory voices reached Finjiang's ears. I saw his youthful appearance, full of youthful arrogance, his eyes brimming with pride. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. How ridiculous. He stole from my son, and now enjoys the benefits of cultivation and immortality. How did it end up being something Finjiang was born with? I walked toward Finjiang. Finjiang, run. This woman's gone mad. She's here for revenge. Still acting cool. Defend yourself. You idiot. The barrage of comments frantically warned him, but unfortunately, Finjiang couldn't see the barrage. However, he did notice me. Finjiang, who are you? The young man lifted his chin, scrutinizing me. Good, I've got the right person. I tightened my grip on the sword in my hand. Before Finjiang could react, I left a bloody scratch on his face. Holy crap, they're already fighting. Is the protagonist going to be finished off? Relax, this is a male-oriented novel with a strong protagonist. No matter how powerful the opponent, he'll always turn danger into safety. Exactly. Don't forget whose territory the Celestial Cloud Sect is, and the protagonist's master is here too. Seeing how quickly I struck, the barrage's tone shifted instantly. They weren't wrong. Finjiang was indeed formidable, truly one of the best among the younger generation, but they had forgotten one thing. He was still in his growth phase, in the face of absolute power. Even if you're the protagonist, you're still destined to be crushed. Unfortunately for them, I possess exactly that power. After dodging my attacks in a disheveled state twice, Fin Jiang had his vital point targeted and was stabbed clean through. Ah! A scream echoed. Ignoring it, I subdued Fin Jiang. Then, I directly extracted Zhao's celestial core and bones from his body, nullifying his cultivation. So decisive and ruthless. The live comments exploded. Oh my god, she actually crippled the protagonist. Does she not know the protagonist is heaven's favor one, the center of the universe, destined to become invincible? Ah, the protagonist is just crippled like that? How can we keep watching? Isn't this supposed to be a power fantasy? Damn it, the author sucks. The comments scrolled by rapidly. Fin Jiang looked as if he had been dragged out of a pool of blood, utterly wretched and defeated. He stared at me with a mix of hatred and terror. A deep layer of confusion also lingered in his eyes. I resolved his confusion. Do you know why I'm killing you? Those who had just been flattering Fin Jiang now cowered in fear to the side, afraid that when gods fight, mere mortals suffer the consequences. I projected my voice into everyone's ears, ensuring both they and Fin Jiang could hear it clearly. Because the celestial core within you belongs to my son, born with a mortal core. Yet you seized and monopolized another's celestial essence. Shame on you, a disciple of the celestial cloud sect, for seeking false fame and deceiving the world with such dishonorable acts. My words sparked an uproar and heated discussions. The onlookers hiding in the corners instantly burst into chatter. What this lady said true? No way. Wasn't Fin Jiang born with a celestial core? Could he have stolen it from someone else? Fin Jiang panted heavily. His eyes were already bloodshot from the agony of me extracting his celestial core. Hearing my words now, they widened with fury, nearly splitting at the corners. You're lying. I'm the sex prodigy. My celestial core and bones are innate. He glared at me with venomous hatred. Gone was the dashing, unbridled genius who punished evil and upheld justice, as described in earlier chatter. Instead, he resembled the vicious, malicious beggars I'd encountered during my trials in the mortal world. Is that so? Then why is your celestial core shaped like the divine Langon tree of Mount Kunlun? Fin Jiang couldn't answer. He stared at me fixedly, wishing he could flay me alive. Ah, you wretch! I will kill you. I paid no heed to his threats. This is only the beginning. He stole what belonged to my Zhao, causing him endless suffering in the mortal realm. Now, I've similarly crippled his cultivation. From now on, Fin Jiang is little different from a mortal, having lived a second life. I am no longer the soft-hearted person I once was, the suffering that Leo once endured. I will make Fin Jiang experience it all over again. In front of everyone, I personally shattered Fin Jiang's status and mask. Even if he has opportunities in the future, today's events will surely spread throughout the entire cultivation world. With the mission complete, I turned and left. Fin Jiang spat out a fierce threat. You just wait. My master and my mother won't let you get away with this. The bulletins flashed with the same message. Just you wait, you vicious woman. The protagonist's master will come for revenge soon. To this, I sneered in disdain. I restored the reclaimed immortal bone into Leo's body. After all, the original is still the best, far more effective than pouring endless spiritual water. Did Mother go to find Fin Jiang? Sensing the changes within his body, Leo guessed where I'd been these past days. I didn't hide it and simply acknowledged with a hum. I've heard that Fin Jiang is the head disciple of the Celestial Cloud sect, highly regarded by the sect, and his master is the renowned Celestial Lord Zixiao. What if? Leo was worried for me. He had never met Cadence Xia. I had never mentioned this person in front of him either. When I brought it up now, his reaction was more of unfamiliar caution than intimate familiarity. Don't worry, Mother has a plan, I reassured him. For the next few days, I stayed by Leo's side day and night, until one afternoon, when the clear, sunny sky suddenly darkened. Dark clouds rolled in, looming over the entire small courtyard like a city under siege. They're here. The Celestial Cloud sect has arrived. The The protagonist's mother is here to seek justice for him. The barrage buzzed with excitement. I was both puzzled and curious. I had thought both of Fin Zhang's parents were ordinary mortals, but the other party could actually command disciples of the celestial cloud sect. It seemed they were from within the sect. I cast a mystic barrier to protect Leo as he rested. Then I stepped out of the small courtyard alone. But upon seeing the other party, I froze. Yasmin Zhang, the woman before me, had the same charming yet arrogant eyes and brows, unchanged from decades ago. I couldn't help but freeze in surprise. No wonder Fin Zhang had seemed so familiar to me earlier. So, he was actually Yasmin Zhang's child. I had wondered why Caden Xia, who'd even been reluctant to teach me cultivation mantras back then, would take on a disciple after all these years. So that's how it is. Yasmin Zhang was Caden Xia's junior sect sister. The two shared an exceptionally close bond. This was evident when Caden Xia once endured celestial lightning on her behalf. Was it you who harmed my Fin? While I was lost in thought, Yasmin Zhang spotted me, but she didn't recognize me. Her eyes blazed with intense fury and hatred as she looked at me. How strange. I was merely reclaiming what rightfully belonged to my child. Why did it seem to Yasmin Zhang and Fin Zhang that I had stolen something from them? Don't you know that your son was born with a mortal core, and that his immortal bone was stolen from someone else? I couldn't help but retort. I'm not sure which of my words angered her. Yasmin Zhang glared at me fiercely. You're asking for death. She had brought quite a few people with her. I furrowed my brows tightly and prepared to face the enemy head on. Wow, isn't the protagonist's mother supposed to be righteous? Ganging up on someone isn't a fair victory, is it? Nonsense. She crippled the protagonist, so his mother's actions are justified. But wasn't the protagonist immoral first? Who told him to steal from others? Is your child the only one that matters, while others' children don't count? The comments erupted into an argument. Gripping my sword to fend off the attackers, I glanced at Yasmin Zhang standing beyond the crowd. She was eager to execute me on the spot. None of the celestial cloud sect disciples she commanded showed any mercy. Fortunately, my cultivation had improved after surviving the tribulation. If this had happened when she first met me, I might have died all over again. Don't move. My sword has just been sharpened and hasn't tasted much blood yet. I seized an opportunity and broke through the encirclement. I immediately placed my sword against Yasmin Zhang's neck. Over the years, she had neglected her cultivation, failing to even react when I threatened her up close. How dare you? Care to test me? The last blood I shed was your son's. Yasmin Zhang was so enraged, she gasped for breath. I had no desire to argue with her. Fin Zhang had already faced his punishment. I'm someone who keeps things clear and separate, settling accounts precisely. But Yasmin Zhang didn't understand that. Humph. My Fin is the future heir of the celestial cloud sect. How can they be compared? Oh, how impressive. My son is the next guardian divine tree of all living beings at Mount Kunlun. There are countless cultivation sects in the world, but divine trees are exceedingly rare. Yasmin Zhang was too short-sighted, and I couldn't be bothered to explain. I didn't want to harm the innocent, so I only asked Yasmin Zhang to order the celestial cloud sect's disciples to stand down. Yet before I could even speak the words, a sharp purple sword light swept in from the side. With lightning speed, it aimed directly for my vital point. Sensing the danger, I blocked with my sword, but I was still forced back several steps. Pain radiated from my sword, holding hand, and I furrowed my brows tightly. Before I could see who it was, I heard Yasmin Zhang's surprised and joyful voice. Senior. Yasmin Zhang had only one senior. That would be Caden Xia. Cultivators' appearances do not change with time. Even after 70 years apart, Caden Xia remained just as he was, like a lone crane soaring above misty peaks, aloof and untouchable, or like snow blanketing a vast wilderness, profound and austere. Yasmin Zhang ran toward Caden Xia. Senior, she's the one who harmed Fanner. Please avenge Fanner. His voice, cold and piercing as a winter storm, instantly enveloped everything in an icy chill. Cadence Xia's gaze fell upon me. Who are you? How dare you harm my disciples? Like Yasmin Jiang, Cadence Xia didn't recognize me either. The pain in my arms suddenly intensified, but I suppressed it forcefully. Indeed, we were only husband and wife for 7 years in the mortal realm. Compared to centuries of cultivation, it was but morning dew. It was only natural he didn't recognize me. However, I didn't mind making him remember me again. I tightened my grip on the sword and turned to face the newcomer. The blade's fleeting gleam fell like snow between his brows, meeting his gaze. Cold as distant snow, capped mountains. I raised my voice. Cadence Xia, it's been many years. How have you been? After parting ways with Cadence Xia, I had imagined our reunion many times, but never like this. At our first meeting after all these years, my former husband wounded me with his sword. As my words faded, the man across from me lifted his gaze to mine. Only now did he truly study my appearance. The next second, those eyes like ancient cold pools rippled with emotion. Lana, Cadence Xia froze in place. Good. So, he still remembers me. I ignored the slight tremor and disbelief suddenly apparent in his tone. With a twist of my wrist, I directly raised my sword. A sword's edge swept through the air. Senior, be careful. But Cadence Xia seemed to be frozen in place. He allowed that sharp sword edge to come straight at him. In the space of a single breath, the sword energy grazed past his coldly handsome face, severing a lock of his hair. Senior, Yasmin Jiang cried out anxiously, then held her breath and stared at me with wide eyes. Your Lana? This sword strike I directed at Cadence Xia was still the same sword technique he had taught me back then. Back then, I was always pestering him to teach me sword techniques, and Cadence Xia, helpless, could only relent. But perhaps because my true form is just a piece of wood, I wasn't particularly clever. Cadence Xia taught me several times, but I still couldn't master it. Meanwhile, Yasmin Jiang watched my clumsy movements and laughed heartily. Others dance at the crow of the rooster, but you dance like the rooster itself. Ha ha ha. Feeling mocked, I was somewhat hurt. I could only turn to Cadence Xia, wanting to tell him, could you teach me again? But my words, much like now, were cut off by Yasmin Jiang before I could speak. Senior, it's time for our night hunt. She called Cadence Xia away. Every time they went out for night hunts, they'd be gone for 10 days to half a month. Not only did Cadence Xia stop teaching me, but worse, I couldn't even see him. Truthfully, I really wished Cadence Xia would take me along, but he always said, it's dangerous outside. You're better off staying home. Sword cultivator techniques aren't suited for you. No need to master them. Just knowing enough for self. Defense is sufficient. But learning his sword forms wasn't for self defense at all. I just wanted to have more to talk about with him, to spend more time together. He and Yasmin Jiang came from the same sect. Every dawn, they practiced swordplay and sparred in the courtyard. Their sword forms were elegant, exchanging blows seamlessly with remarkable synergy. Sometimes, when Yasmin Jiang didn't understand, Cadence Xia would personally guide her. I could never join in their conversations, yet I often fantasized. One day, I hoped I could be like that with Cadence Xia too. And then I'd casually ask, so, have I improved in the sword techniques you taught me? I eagerly awaited Cadence Xia's praise. If I showed progress, the corners of his eyes would curve gently. His smile was like melting ice in a mountain stream, strangely captivating. But alas, until our separation and vow dissolution, I never got to spar with Cadence Xia even once. And now, as I gaze at the bloodstain near Cadence Xia's eye, cut by my sword energy, all those words I once desperately wanted to say, and the recognition I craved, seem utterly insignificant to me now. Holy crap, what's going on? The protagonist's master knows this woman? Oh my, the protagonist's master's eyes are turning red. He's angry. He's about to unleash his power. Wait, is he about to cry? I ignored the sudden shift in focus from the barrage of comments. I looked coldly at Cadence Xia and said, I've heard that Celestial Lord Zixiao is known for being fair and impartial. Before you harm me, shouldn't you first ask what your dear junior and your precious disciple have done? Cadence Xia remained silent. The matter of me crippling Finjong's cultivation and extracting his celestial bone. Caden Xia couldn't possibly be unaware of it. And now he's rushed here. His purpose, like Yasmin Zhang's, is to stand up for Finjong. How ironic. After Liu's core was extracted, he languished in misery for decades, forgotten by all. Yet Finjong has only been injured for a few days, and it's prompted the entire Celestial Cloud sect to mobilize. Endless indignation surged within me, but even more apparent was the hatred and fear deep in my heart. Regarding the origin of Finjong's celestial bone, does Caden Xia know about it too? Was he involved in this? I couldn't tell which answer I wanted to hear. I only knew one thing. If he was responsible for Liu's suffering today, I wouldn't hesitate to cross blades with him right here. Yasmin Zhang grew anxious. Senior, don't listen to her nonsense. Caden Xia reprimanded. Yasmin, step back. Yasmin Zhang shot me a fierce glare before angrily closing her mouth and retreating. Caden Xia seemed to have countless words left unspoken. His gaze swept over my slightly trembling hands. That face which once resembled frost and snow covering a pine tree, now carried an unexpectedly complex expression of concern. I was in secluded cultivation when Finjong underwent bone replacement and marrow cleansing. Caden Xia said, very well. In that case, I ask that Celestial Lord Zixiao first investigate thoroughly before coming to find me. The Celestial Cloud sect members arrived with great fanfare but departed in complete silence. Seeing me return safely, Liu immediately approached with concern. Mother, are you all right? Did the Celestial Cloud sect send someone? You're injured. Who did this to you? Seeing my grim expression, he anxiously shook the tree trunk. He fired off several questions in a row, saying he had heard Caden Xia's voice. Finjong's master came too, didn't he? Was it him who hurt you? I looked at Liu. For a moment, I wasn't sure whether to speak up to soothe his panic, or to pity him for not knowing Caden Xia's true identity, and recalling the shocked look in Caden Xia's eyes when he realized he had wounded me with a sword. I couldn't help but feel a mix of mockery and resentment. If Caden Xia ever learned that the celestial core within his disciple was stolen from his own son, would he too feel as if his heart were being torn apart in unbearable agony like mine? I didn't want to dwell on it further. Yet the scene with Caden Xia during the day had stirred up many thoughts. That night, I tossed and turned, inevitably recalling all the past events. And, just like me, the barrage of comments couldn't sleep either. They stopped whispering and gossiping about the male lead Finjong and Yasmin Zhang. Instead, they focused on the connection between me and Caden Xia. Could someone please tell me what their relationship is? I'm dying to know. Isn't it obvious? You can guess it, right? I originally paid no attention to it, but the barrage of comments not only made me more unsettled, the unanswered speculations became even more wild and far-fetched. I glanced at them. It wasn't as exaggerated as they made out to be. As for the matter between me and Caden Xia, to sum it up in one sentence, in my youthful ignorance, captivated by his looks, I used a life-saving favor to coerce him into marrying me. Because of this incident, Yasmin Zhang never missed a chance to mock and ridicule me. I heard that Senior married immortal wife. Is that you? TSK, trading a life-saving favor for my Senior to marry you? You're really greedy, aren't you? Senior is destined to take over the Celestial Cloud sect in the future. How dare a little demon like you aspire to such heights? At the time, I had no idea about Caden Xia's identity. I thought he was just an ordinary cultivator. Never imagined he was actually the closed-door disciple under the Celestial Cloud sect's leader, destined to inherit great responsibilities. If only I had known earlier. When I first encountered Caden Xia by the roadside, I should have finished him off with another strike. Instead of taking him back with me, I spent the whole night lost in wild thoughts. I originally thought it would take Caden Xia many days to uncover the truth. But unexpectedly, early the next morning, I saw a figure standing outside my courtyard gate. I frowned as I examined the person. Caden Xia's clothes were damp with morning dew. Clad in celestial robes, his tall figure stood cold and aloof within the thin autumn mist. We gazed at each other across the courtyard gate. His eyes, when looking at me, were dark as ink. Could he have been waiting here all night? What are you doing here? How are your injuries? I won't die. Hearing him mention yesterday's sword strike, my tone turned indifferent. Cadencia's gaze flickered slightly, lowering his eyes to look at my bandaged hand. Something wrong? I asked again. He came all this way. Surely, not just to see the wound from his sword. I've investigated Fanner's matter. He made a mistake and will reflect on his actions behind closed doors for 3 years starting today. 3 years of confinement. I felt displeased, about to say how 3 years could compare to Zhao's 70 years. Then I heard Cadencia's voice again. As for your clansmen, there's a celestial spring in the back mountains of a celestial cloud sect that can nourish them. Clansmen? I asked him back in surprise and disbelief. Cadencia's gaze swept past me, landing on the divine Langon tree in the courtyard behind me where Zhao had taken form. I've heard that the divine Langon tree of Mount Kunlun can return from death to life, and withered wood can bloom again. He should be of the same clan as you. Fanner was still young when he underwent bone replacement and marrow cleansing back then. He didn't know. It was Yunyan. Before he could finish speaking, I had already guessed. Yasmin Zhang wasn't telling the truth. Through Fin Zhang's incident, she must have learned that Leo, whose immortal bones were extracted back then, was my child. Yet she didn't reveal the truth to Cadencia. Instead, she explained my relationship with Leo as being merely clansmen. The irony is, Cadencia actually believed it. So, you're here to plead for Fin Zhang and Yasmin Zhang? That was the real purpose of his visit this morning. I laughed in disbelief and anger. Thinking back on all the thoughts I had yesterday, I felt like nothing but a clown. In the dim morning mist, Cadencia frowned slightly and said, Lana, Fin has always been proud since childhood. Now, he's lost his cultivation and become an ordinary person. He's already been punished. This tone and manner were all too familiar to me. Back when Yasmin Zhang had upset me several times, Cadencia had done the same. Yasmin is willful by nature, spoiled since she was little. Don't take it to heart. I thought after decades had passed, I had finally escaped from Yasmin Zhang's shadow, but never did I expect another Fin Zhang would appear, and even drag my son into this. I should have realized Cadencia's bias long ago. He indulged Yasmin Zhang in every way back then, and now naturally loves her child as an extension of her. My heart suddenly felt as if pierced by needles. Not for Cadencia, but for Leo. Cadencia seemed to sense something. Lana, are you all right? Get out. I shook off his outstretched hand, my face stinging with pain. This pain originated from my heart, dense and spreading throughout my entire body. Cadencia's movements froze. Did I hurt you? Sorry, I didn't mean to. He thought he had touched my injured hand, but hearing his so bewildered and helpless voice, I only felt even more enraged. Cadencia, you're even willing to lower your head for the sword that wounded me. Fin Zhang committed a grave mistake, yet you casually asked me not to hold it against him. Do you really favor Yasmin Zhang's child that much? Cadencia was taken aback. My conversation with Cadencia ended inconclusively, though the situation at the time made my anger boil over. But upon reflection afterward, I consoled myself. Let it be. After all, I didn't want Cadencia to know about Leo's existence either. Now, his action conveniently spares me the trouble. At this point, I no longer wish to have any connection with Cadencia. Yet a few days later, the inner disciples of the Celestial Cloud sect brought Fin Zhang and Yasmin Zhang to my door. I didn't recognize Fin Zhang at first. Seeing the sword, wielding crowd standing behind Yasmin Zhang, I thought she had come seeking revenge again. It was the leader who stepped forward to explain. Regarding Fin Zhang's matter, Celestial Lord Zixiao has already investigated. Effective immediately, Fin Zhang is demoted to an outer disciple and confined to reflect on his mistakes for 10 years. Cadencia not only intensified the punishment for Fin Zhang, they even sent someone to apologize. I was taken aback. The other person stepped aside. Only then did I recognize Fin Zhang standing beside Yasmin Zhang. After I had extracted his celestial core, Fin Zhang lost all his cultivation, His age and appearance rapidly withered and aged, reverting to his original mortal state. The long, absent barrage of comments suddenly erupted in a noisy chatter. Holy crap, how did the protagonist end up like this? He's so ugly now, demoted to an outer sect disciple. How can the protagonist still take over the celestial cloud sect? He can't even be a personal disciple anymore, right? Fin Jiang staggered forward. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I shouldn't have seized someone else's celestial core. From now on, I will be down to earth and cultivate properly. Fin Jiang bowed his head, as if wanting to bury it in the ground. His voice was full of humiliation and restraint. I looked down at him with an expressionless face. You have no celestial core or aptitude. You cannot cultivate immortality. I meant it as a kind reminder. But Fin Jiang seemed to feel deeply insulted by it. The hatred and resentment in his eyes were like daggers laced with poison. Wow, Fin Jiang's glare is venomous, stealing others' belongings and still refusing to repent. How does he even qualify as the protagonist? Who's the real villain here? Yasmin Jiang was no different. Lana, what are you so smug about? If it weren't for you, how could Fin have ended up like this? Even now, Yasmin Jiang still refused to acknowledge any fault in Fin or herself. I sneered and threw her words back at her. Indeed, if it weren't for you, how could my Leo have ended up like this? Whatever Yasmin Jiang could do for Fin, I would do the same for Leo. As mothers, both our fears and courage stem from one person. Yasmin Jiang couldn't possibly be unaware of this. Sensing the threat and chill in my tone, Yasmin Jiang looked at me with terror. I withdrew my gaze from her, then cast a contemptuous glance at Fin Jiang. You may leave now. Fin Jiang has already been punished. Compared to those worldly hardships and solitary reflection, what tormented him more deeply was the fall from being Cadence Xie's most cherished disciple to becoming an outer sect member. That agonizing sense of plummeting from heaven's favorite into the mud, a living death, would haunt him for life. Fin Jiang remained silent. Someone stepped forward to drag him away, but just then, from where Fin Jiang found the strength, no one knew. He broke free abruptly, snatching an immortal sword from a bystander. Why can't I cultivate immortality? A damn tree. Just die. He raised the sword and slashed wildly towards the transformed Leo. Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events. My eyes widened, and I swiftly intervened. Leo, the next moment, a purple stream of magical light, and I simultaneously blocked the frenzied Fin Jiang. Fin Jiang was thrown back, landing on the ground, spitting blood. Yasmin Jiang's eyes widened in fury. Fin, Leo, are you all right? I asked Leo. He gently swayed his tree trunk. Following his indication, I looked and saw Cadence Xie standing not far away. He actually came too. The scene became somewhat chaotic. Yasmin Jiang was draped over Fin Jiang, weeping bitterly. Upon seeing Cadence Xie, she cried out in accusation. Senior, Fin is injured. Kill her now. Ridiculous. Clearly, Fin attacked first. Yet, I became the one to blame. If that's the case, I don't mind sending him off. I raised my sword to strike at Fin Jiang, but was blocked once more. Cadence Xie again? Is he blind? Can't he see Fin brought this upon himself? Lana, that's enough, Cadence Xie said sternly, frowning as he stopped me. He was the one who attacked first. Fin was just joking with you. He's just immortal now. What harm could he do to that worthless tree? Yasmin Jiang angrily accused. I directly cast a spell, slapping her across the face. I'm just playing a joke with you two. Yasmin Jiang glared at me with resentment and unwillingness. I suppressed my anger again and again. Get out, don't die here. Moments later, the group vanished from the small courtyard. Only Cadence Xie remained. I paid him no mind, checking if Leo had sustained any damage. Although I had stopped Fin Jiang in time, the sword's energy still left slight scratches on his trunk, with sap seeping out. My heart ached so much, I nearly shed tears. Does it hurt? Leo's branches gently and softly touched me, as if to comfort. Cadence Xie spoke from behind me. It's just a minor injury, nothing serious. Minor injury? I was already full of resentment toward him because of what had just happened. Hearing his voice again only fueled my anger further. "You get out too." Cadencia froze. Perhaps he saw my tear-filled, reddened eyes. Or perhaps he sensed the hatred and rejection in my attitude toward him. "Lana, He reached out as if to touch me, but before he could get close, Leo struck his hand hard with the branch. "You, go away." A young but firm voice rang out. Cadencia was stunned, suddenly lifting his gaze. After that day, I didn't see Yasmin Jiang or Fin Jiang again. Even Cadencia never reappeared. As for me, I added several more layers of mystic barriers around the courtyard. In the following days, Leo and I secluded ourselves in the courtyard to rest and recuperate. Once your immortal body is more stable, Mother will take you back to Mount Kunlun. That is where I grew up, abundant in spiritual energy and sparsely populated. It will greatly benefit both Leo's recovery and his cultivation. Now, I observe Leo's condition daily, watered with the spiritual dew of dawn. I watched as his once drooping and dull leaves turned vibrant green and full of life. A shimmering white glow also enveloped his form. The unpleasantness and fears from that day finally began to fade a bit. Mother, the spiritual dew these past few days has been so delicious. I feel like I'm floating. Leo happily rustled his leaves. I smiled at Leo but said nothing. The next day, I saw collected morning dew and spiritual herbs placed neatly at the door again. This had been the case for several days. Only one person would do this. I frowned, guessing who it might be, but I didn't dwell on it. After all, we'd be leaving soon anyway. No need to seek out unnecessary troubles. Days passed one after another, but just the day before we were set to depart, I saw Yasmin Jiang again. Lana, after just a few days apart, the hostility and malice in her eyes had grown even more intense. Without a word, she raised her sword and charged at me. Her attacks were ruthless and vicious. This wasn't the first time she had been so cold and hostile toward me, but never like today. She seemed determined to kill me without hesitation. Yasmin Jiang, we've never had any grievances between us. Don't you think it's excessive to oppose me time and again? No grievances? Yasmin Jiang let out a cold laugh. In our youth, you stole my senior, and now you've ruined my son, leaving him a cripple, and you dare say we have no grievances? She accused me furiously. Hearing her bring up the past, I felt somewhat speechless. If we're talking about that, I should be the one who's angry, shouldn't I? During the years I was married to Cadencia, Yasmin Jiang always acted innocent in public, but was full of malice behind the scenes. I suffered plenty of setbacks because of her. I couldn't quite understand it back then. It was only later that I realized. So I wasn't the only one who wanted to become Cadencia's Tao companion. Yasmin Jiang and Cadencia grew up together. But before she reached the age to venture down the mountain, I had already taken the lead. Back then, she would often hint to me, saying that Cadencia married me merely out of gratitude for saving his life. I only told her, when Cadencia married me, he said he had no prior engagement, and that our union was his own choice. It's also my fault for not catching the hidden meaning in Yasmin Jiang's words back then. Later, when she grew truly frustrated, she finally spoke plainly. If not for you using your life, saving favor to pressure him, Senior would have married me. She repeatedly showed me how special Cadencia was to her, using this to make me understand my place in Cadencia's heart. She succeeded. That's why Cadencia and I eventually separated. So why is she blaming me now? Has she still not won Cadencia's heart after all these decades? I felt nothing but scorn and disdain for Yasmin Jiang's accusations. He coldly observed the expression on her face. I won't take the blame for this. And as for your son Fin Jiang, you brought this upon yourself. Back when she learned that Cadencia had married me, Yasmin Jiang, in her anger, ran off to the mortal realm. She met a mortal man, hoping to make Cadencia jealous. But she unexpectedly became pregnant. The child was born with a mortal core. Both Cadencia and I tried to persuade her not to keep the child, yet she insisted on keeping it. At that time, she was due to face the celestial trial, and it was Cadencia who took it for her. After Cadencia and I separated, she returned to the Celestial Cloud sect with a child and cadence. Had Fin Jiang been raised as an ordinary person, he could still have achieved something. But Yasmin Jiang insisted on him inheriting the Celestial Cloud sect and pursuing immortality, even going so far as to steal the immortal bones of another's child. Fin Jiang's current plight is entirely the result of Yasmin Jiang's own misdeeds. After hearing my words, Yasmin Jiang's face contorted even more grotesquely. Nonsense. It's all your fault. All of this is because of you. She had gone mad. Her sword techniques became chaotic and completely disorganized. Seeing that every move she made was lethal, I decided not to hold back either. Cadence was right. Fin Jiang was still young when he underwent the bone replacement and marrow cleansing. The only person who could have conceived such a method and carried out for him was Yasmin Jiang. Mother and son, one seizing and the other occupying, were both despicable. Fin Jiang had already been crippled. Now it was Yasmin Jiang's turn. Yasmin Jiang, since you believe we have grievances, let's settle them all today. I found an opening in Yasmin Jiang's defense and subdued her. Just as I had crippled Fin Jiang's cultivation, I now did the same to hers. Yasmin Jiang screamed in agony repeatedly, yet instead of raging, she laughed maniacally, her eyes bloodshot as she stared at me. Lana, my son is ruined, and your son won't fare any better. I frowned, not understanding what she meant. Suddenly, a muffled rumble of dark thunder echoed from the heavens, followed by rolling, thick clouds churning violently. Holy shit, celestial lightning. I remember from the original book that this was exactly when Fin Jiang was supposed to face his tribulation, but now Fin Jiang is just an ordinary person. So where will this lightning strike? The long, absent barrage of comments reappeared. My face turned pale as I instantly understood something. Yasmin Jiang, in extreme agony, laughed madly. Your son's immortal body isn't stable yet. Guess if he can escape this celestial trial? I rushed toward the small courtyard. Dark clouds churned above my head, with several flashes of light tearing across the sky. The thunder roared like drums. Within my field of vision, I saw the mystic barrier covering the courtyard tremble. In a flash of lightning and thunder, tiny cracks appeared in the barrier. Points connected into lines. Lines formed surfaces, until finally, with a thunderous boom, it shattered into countless fragments of flowing light that scattered and vanished. Several bolts of terrifying lightning descended, as if encountering no resistance, charging forward with overwhelming force. No, Leo, I couldn't stop it in time, only watching helplessly as it struck the center of the courtyard. But the next moment, a purple streak shot up from the ground, like a sharp sword piercing the sky. They collided in an instant. Violet and cyan radiance spread from the point of connection, covering the vast wilderness. Half a month later, Leo came to me with a small bundle on his back. Mother, I'm ready. During this time, he had recovered well, able to briefly transform into human form. Once again, he looked just as I remembered. I straightened his hair bun and smiled softly. Good, let's go then. After leaving, we encountered an inner disciple of the Celestial Cloud sect. Are you leaving, miss? Won't you bid farewell to the immortal lord? Upon seeing Leo and me, the disciple paused in surprise before asking. I fell into silence. Half a month ago, the celestial lightning meant for Fin Jiang's tribulation had struck Leo instead. I had thought Leo and the small courtyard would be reduced to ruins and ashes under the lightning. But when I rushed back in haste, what I saw was still an intact courtyard. In the center of the yard, Leo was enveloped in a ball of fluorescent light. A faint purple glow emanated from his entire body. I froze, not just because Leo was safe, but also because, under the tree, stood a slender figure of an immortal in silent stillness. It was Cadence. He had saved Leo. Cadence had taken on several thunder tribulations for him, resulting in damage to his cultivation. After arranging for Leo and all of us to be taken to the back hills of the Celestial Cloud sect, Cadence went into seclusion to recover from his injuries. I decided I still wanted to see Cadence. After the disciple announced me, I had Leo wait for me outside the room. As soon as I entered, I saw the young man sitting on the couch. He appeared thinner than when I first met him. A somber expression was etched on his face. Hearing the sound, Cadencia looked up. His cool, dark eyes held a touch more loneliness and desolation. Actually, I had seen Cadencia on the very day he began his seclusion. At that time, he was even weaker than now, yet he forced himself to put on a brave front. Lana, who is that clansman of yours? He grabbed my sleeve and asked, ignoring the tremor and strain in his voice. I spoke expressionlessly. Didn't you already know? That day in the courtyard, Leo, whom he had saved, swayed his branches behind him. Upon seeing me, he called out crisply, "Mother, I'm fine," seeing that I did not deny it. Cadencia's eyes reddened. "It's my child. It's our child. Why didn't you tell me back then? Why didn't you come to find me? We are already divorced. You were the one who wanted the divorce. Lana, you were the one who wanted it. I never intended to divorce you." Cadencia interrupted me. He coughed a few times, unsure if it was from anger or injury. He appeared both frail and stubborn. His wounded, aggrieved expression inexplicably stirred a sense of irritation within me. Why did it feel as though I were the one who had wronged him? "Cadencia, do you truly not understand why I sought to dissolve our union?" I demanded. It wasn't because he spent day and night sparring and practicing swordplay with Yasmin Jiang, nor was it because he insisted on enduring the heavenly tribulation in her stead. Rather, it was, back then, faced with Yasmin Jiang's tearful plea, fearing punishment from her sect master, Cadencia agreed to return with her to the Celestial Cloud sect and claim the child in her womb as his own. If you acknowledge that, then what did that make me? Even if it wasn't true, I retorted hoarsely. I was the one who exchanged vows with Cadencia before heaven and earth, the one who swore the binding oaths. Yet, in the end, Cadencia was to declare himself another's partner and father. To this day, I still cannot let it go. Love and its absence are all too evident. In truth, I had always sensed it. I had simply been deceiving myself all along because I truly loved Cadencia. I thought of the divine Langon tree, enduring for millennia without fading or decay. I could afford to wait. One day, Cadencia would come to love me too. But that night, I spent the entire evening on the roof where Cadencia meditated, gazing at the stars, reflecting on all the memories between Cadencia and me. Suddenly, it all felt so pointless. So the next day, I proposed a separation to Cadencia. I quietly watched Cadencia, my gaze fixed on him, not minding to tell him one more thing. Besides, how do you know I never came looking for you? After the separation, I discovered I was pregnant with Leo. At first, I really didn't want to tell Cadencia. I planned to take him back to Mount Kunlun, but on the way, I was struck by celestial lightning, directly undergoing a tribulation. Leo in my womb endured the tribulation with me, thus forming his immortal body. And after surviving the lightning tribulation, I went into labor, leaving me weak and in need of deep sleep to recover. I knew I couldn't protect Leo for the time being, so I thought of taking him to find Cadencia. After all, he is his biological father. But when I went up to the Celestial Cloud sect, I saw him and Yasmin Jiang playing with Fin Jiang. The back mountain of the Celestial Cloud sect is usually inhabited only by Cadencia. Yet in the autumn mist that day, I saw Fin Jiang being lifted high by Cadencia, laughing joyfully as he was teased. Beside them, Yasmin Jiang watched the two with a gentle gaze. The three of them seemed like a family of three, isolated from the world. There was no room for anyone else. The steps of the Celestial Cloud sect are so high. How could Cadencia know how I climbed up them, or how I came back down? Later, I struggled on for another 5 or 6 years. Leo grew up, able to practice techniques, and I transferred my remaining cultivation to him, hoping it would protect him into adulthood. Only then did I revert to my original form and fall into a deep sleep. I never expected that due to extreme weakness, I ended up sleeping for decades. And when I finally woke up, my own son had his celestial core and immortal bones taken by Fin Jiang, who was raised by Cadencia. With all these reasons, how could I not hate? Cadencia's face was almost deathly pale. his expression suddenly contorted with a spasm of pain. The hand clutching my sleeve trembled violently. How could this be? It turns out it was like this. Cadence kept repeating. Then he let out a heart-wrenching cry. His voice was broken, like the mournful howl of a beast. Does it hurt? But how could this pain compare to the pain Leo and I suffered? You're here. Have a seat. Now seeing Cadence again after half a month. We had long lost the bloody confrontation of that day. No need. I came to bid you farewell. Leo and I are returning to Mount Kunlun today. I indifferently rejected Cadence's words. I thought he would say something. After all, on the day, he learned the truth. Before I left, he finally asked me, Lana, do you have nothing else to say to me? Nothing. I refused decisively and without hesitation. Cadence's gaze wavered once more. After a moment, I heard his faint, bewildered voice. How could there be none? You weren't like this before. Before? Indeed, I used to hold nothing back. Especially with Cadence, I'd speak when I was happy, and speak when I was unhappy. If I ate delicious pastries today, I'd tell him. If I tasted awful ones, I'd tell him too. But most of the time, Cadence, wouldn't respond to me. Sometimes he even found me noisy. Back then, I adored him, my heart full of affection for him, and I didn't see anything wrong with his coldness and lack of response. But later, I witnessed how he interacted with Yasmin Zhang, only to realize it wasn't like that at all. He was indulgent, doting, and endlessly patient with Yasmin Zhang, far more patient than he ever was with me. Now, I rarely feel like talking to him, yet Cadence, seems unsettled by it. Looking at him, I couldn't help but find it amusing. What do you want me to say to you? Even before the separation, we had nothing left to say to each other. Now that the truth has been torn open, should we reminisce about old times? I truly can't think of any old affection we have to recall. If anything, there's rather some resentment. Hearing my words, Cadence glanced over lightly. He looked at Leo standing properly outside the room, lowering his desolate eyes. He also concealed countless unspoken words. A faint, low, and hoarse voice came like a breeze. All right, I won't see you out. I nodded and turned to leave, holding Leo's hand. As we reached the doorway, he suddenly stopped and glanced back. I followed his gaze. Inside, Cadence had already lain down. His eyes were tightly shut, his furrowed brows never relaxing. The autumn chill swept in through the window, casting dappled light and shadow in the room. He leaned against the couch, like a beautiful yet decaying painting, exuding an aura of desolate emptiness. I recalled our first encounter that year. Back then, he collapsed before the bamboo fence of my home, like a fragile jade mountain toppling over. I saved him and brought him back. I nursed him for over half a year, using the sap of the divine Langon tree. After waking, he said, "Thank you for saving my life. Miss, I have no way to repay you." I said, "If you have no way to repay me, then offer yourself in marriage." The young man's ears turned red with embarrassment as he stammered, Is that really all right? During the 7 years we depended on each other in the mortal realm, he once danced with his sword, creating glowing trails for me, hunted wild rabbits, and flew me thousands of miles to see the cloud seas over the mountains. But in the end, all these became like faded murals crumbling to the ground, dust, covered, worn, stained, never mentioned by anyone. Mother, let's go. All right, Leo and I finally returned to Mount Kunlun. Our journey in the mortal realm had lasted too long. The myriad beings of Mount Kunlun were overjoyed at my return. They spread the news far and wide. Lana is back. Lana is back. Wow. And she brought back a beautiful child. Who is this? I explained with a smile. My son. Oh my. So, our Mount Kunlun now has a little guardian god? Ha ha ha. At that moment, the sun was just rising in the east. Mount Kunlun was enveloped in the morning mist and rosy dawnlight. In celebration, birds and auspicious clouds danced in harmony, and all living beings cheered with joy. The atmosphere was filled with jubilation. Leo adapted quickly and was very happy every day in Mount Kunlun. He was just like I had been in the beginning, absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to nourish and cultivate himself. 30 years passed as if in a single day. time flying by swiftly. I could see that Leo was now capable of taking over my responsibilities. So I began my retirement with peace of mind. I could still see the bullet comments, but by this time, their content had changed too. Ugh, why do I have to work? I really want to slack off and just lie flat. Mother of the antagonist, can you let me in to lie down? In the year, Leo officially became the next guardian divine tree of Mount Kunlun. I was playing leaf cards with the tree spirits of Mount Kunlun. The sky suddenly darkened. A purple meteor streaked across the sky, falling toward the East Sea. Huh? Which immortal is that? A little sprite fairy inquired. I had a vague sense and already had a guess in my heart. A few days later, the immortal birds that carry messages in the cultivation world brought the sect's obituary. The celestial Lord Zixiao of the Celestial Cloud sect, for some unknown reason, had his spiritual heart shattered, damaging his cultivation. He practiced swordplay at the back mountain every day, ceaselessly day and night, until he finally lost control, went berserk, and exploded, dying. The disciples of the Celestial Cloud sect fulfilled his last wish, sealing his immortal sword at the back mountain, facing Mount Kunlun.